Hey Book Dragons, it is your girl Lindsay here with the Spine Bookcast for our Season 1 finale of the Spine Bookcast Chronicles of a Bookshop. We have talked to literally some of the coolest people. We've talked to people like my English teacher, who I'm sure spilled secrets, and some of our favorite authors like Sally Lotz and Rose Prindeville and C.K. Madrid, and then we've talked to some really amazing readers like Leah Trigg, and Elizabeth Cook is one of our authors, and Samantha Bell. You know, we've had a whole lot of people this season. But for our season finale, we have two of my favorite authors of all time, and I know I say that every week, but, you know, it's true. They are. We have Zoe Bacurin and Loyd Elmore Jr., who you have seen, or heard, rather, on the episodes this season. How are you guys doing?
Tired.
Doing great.
See? This is going to be a
We are yin and yang.
In between, it's a spectrum.
This is going to be a dumpster fire. It's going to be great. Okay, Zoe, let's start with you. What have you been up to since we recorded our last episode with you?
Oh, geez. You know, just plugging away at the new novel. Nearly finished with the rough draft. It's a 4-draft process, but it's moving right along. First draft always takes the longest.
Sure. What about you, Loyd?
Breathing.
Really?
Yeah, that's about it. No, I've been writing and working. Yeah, that's pretty much taken my whole life.
Yep.
Right now.
Okay, so Zoe, you're working on your new book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your third one.
Yes, it is.
And Loyd, you're working on your new one?
No. I tend to write and then take like a couple of days break between books, and then I start writing the next one. So I've published 9, and I'm writing the 13th book.
I'm still struggling to write my first one, and Loyd, you're just cranking them out. Like, it's not even hard.
I have no life.
You have a life. It makes me laugh.
Your life is writing.
Yes. I'm a machine.
Okay.
It's the anchor that keeps us tethered.
Rusty,
Okay.
Angry machine.
Well, so somebody messaged me and asked me, how did I meet? So let's go over. Loyd, how did you and I meet? Do you remember?
Let's see. I believe I was looking for local bookshops to try and get my book in.
Okay.
And that's when I discovered the Spine.
Yep.
Not in this particular location, another
Sure.
location. And, went in, and you were very open and very cool. Gave me a hug because I said something, I don't know, stupid.
Yeah. Loyd and I immediately became instant friends, like instantly, because as we become more and more close, the amount of shit that we both gone, oh my God, me too, is really...
Yeah, I'm just not as loud about it.
No, I know. Because what was it?
You'll get there, buddy.
Yeah, no.
My
What is
wild
it?
days are over.
Well, so my friend Jessica, her husband John calls me his extrovert. So anytime he needs to go out, he goes, I need my extrovert. Call Lindsay. She'll do it. And I usually am like, okay, what are you doing? You know, Zoe, what about you? Because I can't remember. It's been so long.
I went into therapy one day, and my therapist said, my son discovered a local bookshop, so now you have to email this lady and tell her that you have a book. And it happened like that. I was basically forced into this by my therapist, but it's worked out pretty well.
So now you have, what is it called? Stockholm Syndrome? Is that why we're friends now?
Yes. Ever since I watched Beauty and the Beast as a little girl, I knew that was how I wanted to function in adult relationships.
I feel that.
Be held captive.
You know,
That's comfortable.
I don't even like Beauty and the Beast very much, but I will say...
Oh, I really like it because of the Stockholm Syndrome.
I didn't want... When I was younger, I was like, I really want the library. I don't really care about the Beast. But now that I'm an adult and I read smut, it's like, can I have both?
I like Beauty and the Beast because it's fundamentally a rom-com about a monster getting dating advice from a clock and a candlestick. And that's just very special.
This is why I love you. You say shit that's just like, I mean, you're not wrong.
In today's world, I would totally believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's possible.
So what are we reading? Like, Lloyd, what are you reading?
Right now, I'm in between books. I'm trying to get up the courage to start reading Shogun.
I just gave that book to somebody.
It's like 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So what inspired Shogun? Like, why do you want to read that?
Oh, well, the latest novel required a lot of, like, reading on samurai and that kind of thing, and I'd always heard about Shogun. I'd started watching the series, which is really good.
Is that the one with David Carradine?
No, that's Kung Fu.
Okay. God, I'm sorry. Don't come for me.
No, I can't remember his name. He's a very famous Japanese actor.
I know who you're talking about. I know what that is now. Okay, I know what that is. Yeah.
I don't know how much money it took to make this show, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah.
But Shogun is, it's like The Stand.
Yeah. I love The Stand.
So I'm trying to get that, because once I start, it's going to be hard to stop and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Zoe? What are you reading?
I have just started reading a short story anthology called Her Body and Other Parties.
Okay.
I'm going to get her name wrong, but Carmen Maria Machado, I think, is the author's name. It's the first thing I've read by her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of angry feminist literature, which I think is what every girl needs right about now.
Sure.
So I've just jumped into that, and it's like 10 or so stories in the book, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I just within the past couple of days started. So.
Now, you two have become friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We're friendly.
Yeah.
Friendly. I think that's great.
We haven't been bowling or anything.
But yeah. So I know that you followed him and you bought one of his books, I think. Mm-hmm. And then you bought one of her books.
Yes.
Have y'all read each other's books?
I have. It's in the queue.
I have the same answer. It's a big stack of books, and you just gotta slowly work your way through it.
My TBR is redonkulous.
Yeah, like the short story anthology I just started reading was published in 2017, and I'm getting to it now. Yeah.
His short stories?
No, the book I just started reading.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, what is your goal for next year, writing-wise? Oh, God, you laugh like that, and I know something menacing is coming.
Well, I actually have a list on my phone of stuff that I want to write.
Sure.
And I'm hoping by the time next October comes around, when I publish the third book in the Maylinville series, I'll have between 6 to 7 books in first draft.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of writing.
So you're going to do like a whole Stephen King kind of series with Maylinville, like with the Dark Tower series? Is that...
Oh, it's not that good, but yeah.
Well, you and Dietrich Strogner are doing the same thing, because Dietrich wrote Frostbitten, and he's writing, I want to say 5 books. Please correct me, Dietrich, if that's wrong, that are all in the same world but different stories. I love that you guys do that.
So do you write multiple books at once?
No.
Okay.
I can't. I have tried.
You're just very ahead of the game?
Yes. I've tried to do 2 works in progress at the same time, and I just can't do it. I can't focus. So it has to be one and then the next. That's just how my brain works.
When you read Zoe's books, have you ever watched did you and I ever talk about the show Pushing Daisies?
Yeah.
Her books remind me of that sing-songy,
That's how
rhythmic.
I taught myself to write dialogue, was on Brian Fuller television series.
You are going to love her writing, because the first time I started reading it, I was like, I feel like I should have musical accompaniment to these books.
Yeah.
I like to write poetically.
Yeah.
Like, with prose, a lot of emphasis is just, are you telling a good story? But I think it's important as an author to, are you telling the story in a compelling way that is lyrical almost? Like, does the book sing to you? That's kind of my style.
Well, and I've said that about Shakespeare, is that you can't just read Shakespeare straight. You have to pay attention.
Read him gay.
I love you so much. This is why I love
You get the
you.
full experience.
You say stuff sometimes that you just kind of go, oh, God, I love you so much. It just cracks me up. But yeah, I mean, I think with yours, you would also have to have a song playing in your head while you read it.
I had, I wrote a novella in high school, and my friend made a mixtape for me that was essentially the soundtrack to that book one time, and that stuck with me as kind of like, there's a musicality to it.
Have you guys ever thought about putting a playlist together for your stuff? And what I mean is, so like Maggie Steve Viter, and I mispronounce your name all the time wrong. Please, Maggie, don't come for me. I love your book so much. So she put together a playlist for her Raven Boy series, which I love so much. I love so much. And like you can go on to Spotify and listen to the songs that like go with the book. Have you guys ever thought about doing something like that with your books?
Well, I have now.
Day one.
Really?
I have Amazon Music, and I have to listen to specific music when I'm writing.
Okay.
Like it's usually Hammock. It's an ambient group from Nashville.
Sure.
It's usually in the list, but like Little Ronin. I don't normally listen to this kind of music, but it was a lot of like metal.
That's because metal's awesome.
Slayer, Pantera, of course Metallica.
Yes.
Because, well, without giving anything away, the little Ronin, they trained to really loud heavy metal music so they could learn to concentrate.
As well, they should.
In extreme situations.
In extreme situations, exactly. Okay. And so I was like, no. I've never listened to Pantera. It's time to listen to Pantera.
What?
And now I love Pantera.
Look at that judgment on her face.
I don't.
I was never a metal guy. I was never a metal guy. I was a
I don't understand how you put that phrase together.
I've never listened to Pantera. I listen to Tegan and Sarah and shit.
No, yeah, no, but there's sometimes like you just need angry fuck you music.
Well, yeah. Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
But,
right?
Right.
We're going to get into that.
I was more of a Pink Floyd, which I still am, Dire Straits, The Police. If you get American, and it's white guy American music.
Sure.
Bryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen.
Sure.
Those kind of,
Yeah. And so, what about you? You said you've never thought about doing that before?
Oh, well, in terms of listening to music while I write, I do listen to, like, lo-fi hip-hop.
Okay.
Halloween themed, which just, it just keeps me kind of grounded. And I've got to put on, I don't live alone in my house, so I've got to put on my noise-canceling headphones. And
sure.
Okay,
so for next books, we expect a playlist to go along, so get
Okay.
That is my challenge to you.
Deal.
So since you brought it up, we're going to get into it, Lloyd.
Okay.
So, angry music. So today's podcast is being recorded 2 weeks after the election, I think it's been.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Approximately. So how are we doing with all of that?
I mean, I'll be, I'm the most privileged in the room because I'm a straight white male.
Mm-hmm.
And it still scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Do you know that you were the first person to text me that morning? The very first person. And I want to tell y'all what Lloyd texted me because...
Oh, shit.
No, it was great. It almost made me cry.
Oh.
Because it was just so kind of what you said. So this is what he texted me at 6:19 in the morning because he knew I was up because I was sobbing. And he goes, Linz, I'm simply devastated. I'm numb and not comfortably. It hardly feels real. I went to sleep with hope. I woke up before 1:30 and had to check my phone. I didn't go back to sleep, and to see a lot of my quote-unquote friends rejoicing that we're going back to the 1930s because they are straight white male Americans or straight white women who prefer to be told what to do instead of believing in themselves has made me sick. They have voting here at the shithole.
Probably.
And when I look into the dumpster, there were a bunch of political signs, as there usually are after election. Some Trump, well-deserved place for them and his fucking name, and Harris. I grabbed one and I will put it up in my writing room to remind myself of where we need to get to. I'm thinking about you and all the women, minorities, and anyone who isn't a white man. This too shall pass and we have our time in the sun. And I told you that I can't stop crying and that I'd been up since 3:30. And just, we had a really nice conversation. And you were just the first person to send me any kind of text message that showed any kind of, I am so sorry. And I cannot even begin to express to you what that meant, that one of my friends understood why I was so upset. And I will forever appreciate that about you. That at 6 a.m. your thought was, I'm sorry that this is where you are at.
Yeah, I was at work and I really wanted to just get in the Jeep and just drive. And
Yeah.
wait till the gas ran out.
Yeah.
And find somewhere and just
Yeah. What about you, Zoe? How are you doing?
Oh, it's a journey. I started off spiraling.
Yeah.
I'd really had hope this election. Like, I think last time this happened, I felt a sense of numb resignation that
Sure.
was coming. But I really built up my hope this time. I'm like, I had belief that, like, we can do this, especially when Biden dropped out and Kamala stepped up. I'm like, oh, this is it. We can do this. We can be better. So the initial reaction was, just drinking Fireball straight from the bottle and really just living in it.
Yeah.
I kind of started sliding into old negative habits of isolation,
Sure.
and kind of self-deprecation, but I've been trying to maintain some sense of optimism
Sure.
since then, and I think I had a good conversation recently with someone where we talked about this wouldn't be happening if we weren't so close to progress.
Yeah.
Like, his re-election is a fear reaction
Sure.
from a certain group of people who don't like that queer women like myself are thriving in society in a way that we never have before. That minorities are being stronger in our society and able to just live. Lots of people are being held to task. If you look like the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, things are happening. And I think the reason he's been reelected is the fear response of the old guard who don't want that to keep happening. But I think we can take from this that we have come a long way, and over the next 4 years, we just need to fight harder and louder than ever, because we are on the precipice of something better, and we just have to stay with it and not give up.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to bed about 11:30, and I think in my heart I knew it was over, but I thought maybe if I go to bed, it'll be okay, because all the swing states aren't in yet, and when I woke up about 3 a.m. just because I was stress sleeping, and I don't sleep well when I stress sleep, but I just remember thinking, fuck, and I laid in bed and cried. And then once I realized I wasn't going back to sleep, I got up and I went out to the couch and turned on the TV and cried some more. And I think I cried off and on all day long. Just,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
I just felt I was disassociating, basically. Just
Yeah.
like, well, this can't be reality.
Yeah. Have you had any incidents outside where somebody has made you feel uncomfortable since the election, or anything where you have felt concerned about the election?
Not really, but I pass for a straight woman to, like, certain, especially not with when I'm, like, around other queer people. They can generally suss me out pretty quickly.
Sure.
But just around, like, someone out and about, no one thinks, oh, there's a lesbian, It's
Yeah.
not like something, I'm not wearing a t-shirt at all times that says,
Sure.
here's your resident dyke.
Yeah.
So I can generally get by in the day-to-day, but it's made me less trusting of people. Like, my initial reaction is just going to the grocery store after the election, and people were like, hey, how are you? I'm like, there's this sense of unease, like, what's in your heart? What do you really feel about the people around you?
What about you, Lloyd?
What was the question?
Have you seen any pushback or anything that you would categorize as a reaction to the election?
With most of the people that I know that I'm friends with tend to lean to our side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of even now long faces and like what the fuck is going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean it's all up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? And the ones on the other side, maybe just rejoicing just a little too much.
Yeah.
Of course, some of them are just like, okay, whatever.
I've lost friends because of this election. I've had some people that are no longer speaking to me because admittedly, and I'm going to stand by what I said, I made a video on my personal Instagram page at 3 a.m. sobbing, saying, well, I guess that's that, and I'm terrified to be a woman right now, and if you voted for him, just unfriend me. You know, and I stand by it because I was angry, but I've gone back less emotional. I've gone back and rewatched it, and I stand by it. And it has caused some people to remove themselves from my life, and that is the repercussions of it. But I stand by what I said because I know, like, for me, I can't look Zoe in the face if I don't stand up for her.
So hideous.
Shut up. You're so stupid. But I just, I've got so many friends who are African American or in the LGBTQIA spectrum, and I can't tell my kid, you have to stand up for other people who can't stand up for themselves or don't have a voice. You have to stand up for what's morally right, and I can't look my friends in the face. Because it's not political for me. It's literally...
It's morality.
It's morality. People voted.
They say it's for them too, but like, what a dark sense of morality to want to just oppress people and silence them.
Yeah,
and have them be less than you.
Women's rights are going to be stripped unilaterally across the board. Mm-hmm. LGBTQ. I mean, in Texas, there's a doctor right now that's getting prosecuted by the Attorney General because he gave gender affirming care.
Yeah, that infuriates me.
Yeah, somebody said the other day that I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I was like, "There's no Kool-Aid. There's no Kool-Aid. This is
drinking the Kool-Aid."
Yeah, this is the reality of the situation. I mean, Trump has basically said, "This is what I'm going to do," and he's going to strip our democracy.
Yeah. People just they treat Trump like the Bible, where you can just pick and choose what he says, and this is what I'm going to choose to apply to him.
Yeah.
So anyone who says like, "Well, I only voted for Trump because of my hopes of what he'll do for the economy," which, that aside, as a problem anyway. Yeah. If you just say that and say, "But I didn't vote for him for any of the hateful reasons and the deportation,"
it's an one big thing.
It's like, then you're ignoring it and you're choosing that willful ignorance. You're voting with a lack of empathy because you're saying, all that matters is how this affects me. I don't care how this affects anyone else.
Apathy is what got him elected. People's apathy of I don't care about this. I'm only going to...
Because I don't think everyone is directly that hateful.
No.
But the fact that they're willing to ignore it is just as much a problem.
Or overlook. Like, I can't think about that. I can only think about this.
It's like good Germans.
Man. You're the second person to mention, like... good German. So like when
I think I've mentioned it twice to you.
Well, no, so I'm saying that. So I was at the school board meeting Thursday. Right. And one of the gentlemen that's on the board in an interview and at the school board, we were talking about the banned book, which also, moving over to that topic. Mm-hmm. He said this is like pre-Hitler Germany before the regime took over with us pulling books off the shelf and that kind of stuff. Zoe and Loyd's books, if they were put in schools, but I guarantee you both of your books would be pulled.
Oh, hell yeah, they would.
So, like, how does it feel as an author?
My book is in a few high schools.
Is it really?
10 high schools.
Nice. Oh, yeah. Which one?
The first one. Which Spaces Between Spaces.
Oh my God, it's my favorite book that you've ever written. Out of all your books, that's my favorite.
There's a part of me that wouldn't mind having it banned. I'd be like, fuck yeah, I made it.
Because then you know you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask.
Angry, you're
You
saying
banned
the
my
right
books?
things.
Yes!
Yeah, there's some author that talked about your goal as an author should be to write a banned book. And I can't remember who said it, and if any of you guys remember, let me know. So, like, what would that mean to you as a writer? So, both of you, as a writer, what is your opinion on what's going on in Rutherford County and Wilson County right now? And also, as an author, if your book was banned, what would that mean, like, for you guys? It's a loaded question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take the banned books. Like, what is your opinion of what's going on right now in Rutherford County and Wilson County?
I think it's scapegoating, essentially, blaming a lot of problems on something else so you don't have to address the deep-rooted systemic issues in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing as being like video games are the source of violence. It's just
I remember that whole argument. That was so stupid.
It's like, I don't want to have a real conversation, so let's find something that I can blame. And books people have been burning and banning books as long as people have been writing books.
Yeah.
What about you? Go ahead.
Sorry. When I was a teenager, I was essentially given free reign to read whatever I wanted. I say teenager, even younger than that. I think we talked about on my first podcast appearance, my grandfather had a bookshelf of all these books he'd bought, and he was just like, yeah, read whatever you want. And there was no restriction on the content I was reading or how adult it was. But I grew and matured from a young age and grew more empathetic and understanding of a lot of concepts and peoples that I otherwise wouldn't have if I'd limited myself in what I was reading. So I think the entire notion of book banning right now is to keep people in a bubble that they're only taking in the information you want them to take in, because if you educate them in that way, then they're going to agree with the agenda you're pushing, essentially. So you have to take out anything that deviates from that so you can control the next generation growing up. So I don't think this is about protection. I think it's about control, because you're not protecting kids from being queer. You're keeping them from being queer. It's, you know. And
well, I don't think it's keeping them. I think you're forcing them into hiding.
Yeah, it's closeting.
Yeah.
Them. It's keeping them from being themselves. You know. It's
Yeah.
Same thing that conversion camps were there for, just to a lesser degree.
Yeah. What about you, Lloyd?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, I believe, and this is simply what I believe, it doesn't make it correct. This is in general, not individual, but general, overall, across the board. I think parents have gotten lazier when it comes to their children and what they take in. If a parent has a kid who's wanting to read something that's, you know, banned or they need to explain things. They need to be there for them for that. And it shouldn't be allowed for a school district. You know, middle school, of course, there's certain books they shouldn't be allowed to read. It's a little too early. High school, that's a different story. You're becoming an adult. And you should be allowed to have those kind of choices on reading what you want. Now, if you're under 18, it comes down to the parent.
Yeah.
And that's who needs to have that power.
And I said that Thursday night, too. I said very respectfully, I feel like it's up to the parents, respectfully, not the school board, to make those decisions. And even one of the librarians, and I apologize, I cannot remember what her name is, because she got up and spoke after me, but talked about how parents have every opportunity to find out what their kids are reading. All they have to do is make a phone call to the librarian. Mm-hmm. And if they don't want their kid to read something, the librarian will ensure that their kids don't check that book out. I mean, it's an already set up system. And the other thing I don't think people realize is that librarians have to take a master's degree class that literally is nothing but, here's how you create a curriculum in a library for specific age groups. I mean, you have to take that class to be able to do that. So, I mean, they're taught how to build a library based on the age group that library is for. I mean, teachers aren't putting A Clockwork Orange in elementary school libraries. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're not going to do that.
Right.
And I mean, I read that in high school.
I did too.
But now it's banned. Yeah, I mean, right? I read To Kill a Mockingbird in middle school, and now it's one of the most banned books. And so, like, I look at some of the books that are on these two lists, and it's just, these were required reading when we were in high school.
Yeah, same. To Kill a Mockingbird. That was one I had to read for school.
Yeah, Great Gatsby's on there. I have the
Animal Farm.
Which is
Another one I had to read for school.
Yeah.
That's a great book about communism.
Yeah.
Do you know what kills me about Animal Farm? And this occurred to me today. So Animal Farm and Watership Down are both about communism.
Right.
Animal Farm gets banned all the time. No one ever mentions Watership Down.
I feel like Watership Down's probably been banned.
I can't find it on the list anywhere. I've
really?
looked.
That's interesting.
Because I had that thought. And
People are fooled by the bunnies.
Yeah,
It's just a book about bunnies.
I have never seen it on a list. And I thought, it's the same damn topic. Just one is pigs and one is bunnies. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, the movie Animal Farm that they did as a cartoon versus the Watership Down movie as a cartoon, Watership Down scared the ever-living shit out of me when I was little. Yeah. That movie is, Jesus Christ. And just, where do you think we're going? Like, if we continue on this path, where do you see us going down the road with regards to reading and writing and books? And I mean, since y'all are authors, like, where do you see the future of us going if we continue down this path of...
I really don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's... When I think of it, it becomes dystopian.
Yeah.
And... I don't know. I see maybe, back in the 80s and 90s, probably the 70s, there was that special room at the video store.
Yeah, the porn room.
The porn room. There'll be the special room in a bookstore.
Yeah.
And it'll be watched. And
my entire bookstore will be the special room at this point.
Good.
Yes.
What about you, Zoe? Where are you?
I'm trying to be, I don't just want to say optimistic, because optimism tends to summon the image of head in the clouds, just ignoring what's happening, but more of a defiant optimism. Like, I'm not going to give up no matter what happens. And I'm going to keep pushing in my day-to-day life and in my writing.
Sure.
So, things get bad, but we persevere.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, no, you absolutely have to. So, so let's talk about one of the other things, like my response to all of the book banning. So I got started in this whole thing with the RCLA, which is the Rutherford County Library Alliance. Tiffany Fee messaged me and was like, hey, would you be interested in speaking? And so I started speaking, and they banned the books anyway, even after I said everything, and I cried the whole way home rage cried the whole way home that first night, because Zoe and I, it was insanity. And we both...
It was just vicious.
Yeah, which to me is just insane. Like, it was a school board meeting. And yet Zoe and I didn't feel...
it should be banal and boring.
Yeah.
It should be red tape and, can we talk about this zoning issue or whatever?
Yeah.
This shouldn't even be something on the docket.
Yeah.
This is really trickling down politics down to a local level of just over-politicizing what's happening. There's a bunch of ladder climbers on the school board who, I think I said last night, like they're playing Model UN and overinflating the importance of everything they're doing.
Yeah. Well, so, I went to that first, I know, right? And this is why I love her. She says stuff, and I'm just like, I gotta write that down.
They think they're in Congress, the way they behave and act. And just their overall tone is like they've watched senators get up and go on a diatribe on C-SPAN or something. They're like, that's me, that's what I'm gonna be. And it's like, you're on a school board.
Yeah. So, the day that Wilson County threw out that list of 400 plus books And I mean, now Florida has thrown out over 700. You know, I remember going home and being so... I was vibrating with rage. I was so mad. And I was trying to think, okay, I have a platform to do something. What am I going to do, right? You know. So one of my favorite poems, and I'm going to read it, says this will be a long episode because it's our season finale and I can do that. One of my favorite poems is
Wait a minute, let me get a snack.
You're going to get a snack? So Loyd brought snacks. And they are Nerds Gummy Clusters, and they're really flipping good, dude.
Today's episode sponsored by Nerds Gummy Clusters.
Yeah, Nerds, if y'all are listening, you know, like, sponsorship, I'm just saying.
Yes, you nerds.
I mean, right?
I'll take them.
Right? So, Invictus is a poem written by William Ernest Henley. And it is by far one of my favorites. Like, the shirt that I am currently wearing has the last 2 lines of this poem on here. I will eventually be getting the last 2 lines tattooed somewhere on me. And then my husband had this poem calligraphied for me one year for either birthday or Christmas. I can't remember. So the poem is Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. And I love that poem so much. And so I read it occasionally whenever I'm feeling ragey. Mm-hmm. And then there's that movie Invictus about Nelson Mandela when he took over as president in South Africa, and he went to the football team that was the symbol for apartheid, and he talked to the captain and was like, let's spin this on its head. Let's take this symbol and make it a positive. So he and the captain worked together to win that match for South Africa as a united front, right? And I remember, and it just so happened that that movie was on that night or the next morning, and I remember watching it, and there is a scene, well, there's 2 scenes where Matt Damon plays the captain. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you guys have never seen it, everyone should watch it. It's a beautiful film. So he goes, the captain went to the prison where Nelson Mandela was held, and he's got a long arm span, and he, you know, his wife is watching when he walks in, and he sticks his hands out like this and turns around in the cell, and he almost has to hunch his shoulders because he can't extend his arms fully. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then the morning of the match, he's standing there looking over the field, and his wife comes up and asks him what he's thinking, and this line always kills me. He says, how do you spend 30 years in a prison and then come out willing to forgive the people who put you there? Mm-hmm. And it's always just hit me the enormity of that.
It's a saint.
I mean, right? And just the fact that Nelson Mandela came out of that prison wanting to unite his country, who did not want him, you know, and turned something so horribly negative into a positive. And I kept thinking, let me Nelson Mandela this. How can I turn this into a positive? How can I take this and take my and do something with it? So I came up with the Banned Book Brigade. And that's how that got started for me, was, okay, if they're going to remove these books from schools, let's make sure they do have some place to get them. So I started the Banned Book Brigade, and what you can do with that is I put the list on our website, and you can either buy the books and donate them to the shop, or donate money and I'll go buy the books and donate them to the shop, and then they sit in a big tub outside of the shop, and anybody can come and get them for free. Like, I'm not making any money off of it at all, because for me, it's more important that those books are available to the people who need them, more so than me making money. Because I'll make money on all the other stuff in my bookshop, you know. And have you guys thought about, I say all of that, but, you know, to question, have you guys thought about, like, what your response or your responsibility as authors watching the world be on fire and the attack on books, have you guys thought about what you should or can do as a response? Like, how have you guys had any thoughts about that at all?
Write about it in my perspective.
Yeah.
And put that out there. I mean, as a writer, that's your best weapon.
Mm.
So, that's, yeah.
What about you?
I'm of the same perspective, and, I've always written about queer characters, which is automatically bannable in some circles. So, there's just a sense to push that even further. And my first 2 books, while they are undeniably queer, I feel like I have held certain parts of myself back a little bit out of self-esteem issues and stuff like that. But with my 3rd book, I'm going fully force into being as queer and open about that as possible.
Well, and I've said this about your 2nd book too. So with Loyd's book, the first book I read about Loyd was The Spaces Between Spaces, and I've always joked about how if Stephen King, Alfred Hitchcock, and Ray Bradbury had a threesome, your books are what would come out of it.
That's a visual.
I mean, it is, but that's, all of your stories, like, I could see them on, like, an Alfred Hitchcock Presents or a Twilight Zone, because the stories are just so quirky and odd. And then Zoe's book, so I haven't read Mobs and Desserts yet, but I did read Bring Back My Bonnie, and your book reminded me of Looking for Alaska by John Green, in that you talk about grief and you show the ugly side of grief in the most beautiful way possible.
I think I am a very flawed individual,
Mm-hmm.
and I only really enjoy writing about flawed characters. Just really going through it and reacting in negative ways that probably aren't the most healthy, but really just experiencing everything and coming out the other side of it.
But I think that that's good, though, because, like, in Looking for Alaska...
Because that's how most people have to
Exactly.
any traumatic experience.
And I said that, too, the other night, that having a traumatic experience and then reading a book where you have a character like Alaska in John Green's book, and the daughter in your book, and I can't remember what her name is. Winona, and then her dad... Wesley. And just, all of the people that are in that book, they're all grieving, but they're dealing with their grief in a different way. And I loved that you did that you showed that there's more than one way to handle grief, and it's not always pretty.
No.
And I loved that.
And like everyone, obviously when you're a kid, you're not as focused on how your grief affects other people. Whereas when you're an adult and you have the kid, you have to be focused, well, how does my grief trickle down to my daughter, and like what kind of face do I have to put on? Whereas a 13-year-old girl can have a much different reaction.
I really appreciated that you did that, because I think that was such a subtle way to talk about a very difficult topic, and you made it easy to talk about by doing what you did.
Thanks.
And your books, I think, are just... Your books are so tremendously... I just think you're so talented in taking normal, everyday things like a weather balloon and making them inherently creepy. Like Stephen Moffat with Doctor Who, and Stephen King with a car. You take an everyday normal thing and give like a stone. Which, the cast stone, it is my favorite story of his, by far. It makes me giggle every single time. The first time I read it, I laughed till I cried. But then you have some of your other stories, like, God, what's the one with the guy, Mr. Such and Such?
The Great Maxwell. And the
Yes! Oh, my God. Brilliant. It was brilliant. I can absolutely see... that I can see all of your work as a short mini-series kind of thing.
That would make a good little film, I think.
I think so, too.
I mean, any more than that, it wouldn't be, worth it. But, yeah, nice little short film or something. Mm-hmm. I would like that.
I think that would be great. I think that would be amazing because your stories are just, you start out and you automatically know something funky is going to happen. And then it just usually goes in some direction that you're not prepared and you have this, what the hell? But I love that though. Both your stories too. Because you have the two queer characters, and I remember thinking that if they don't get a happy ending, I'm never going to speak to you again.
Yeah. What I did with them too was very reactionary to all the queer fiction I've grown up with. And like, for instance, lesbians often die or break up before the end of the story. That's just kind of the norm in fiction. So
why do you think that is? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's
fine. It is just, I don't know where it started, but just portraying queer characters in tragedy just became the normal. And it's okay if you have certain stories like that, but you need the alternative. You need to have them succeed and thrive together. Because it's hard when all the fiction you're intaking that represents you is always like, well, you'll never really be happy, so you can just die.
Isn't it a hell of a thing that's your representation?
That said, if you want good disaster lesbians, I am really into Arcane right now.
You and Danny are both in Arcane. I'm going to end up probably having to watch this because you guys talk about it all the time. So how did you guys know you wanted to be writers? Like, how was it? Was that like an organic thing for you both, or?
For me, I had a lightning bolt moment.
Okay.
And this is really stupid.
But here we are.
It dates me, and it's I used to be a big fan of the A-Team.
Yes.
I love the A-Team.
Yeah.
I was a little kid, and Murdoch was like my favorite character.
Sure.
He was crazy and silly, and of course he was living in the VA mental hospital, and they would break him out so they could go do something. And I don't know why, but he was like my favorite. And I wanted to be on the show, but of course I couldn't.
Sure.
So I had a lightning bolt moment of, why don't I write a story? And I was 12, and I wrote longhand on my dad's typewriter paper, and it was, curving up with this big fat pencil and like 80 pages.
Nice.
It's all disappeared into the ether now.
Sure.
I wish I could see how horrible it is, but I think that's what started it for me.
What would you, as an adult now, say to yourself as a kid about writing and stuff?
Oh, you gotta be braver. You can't wait so long. You've got to have the courage to pursue it early. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait for your mom to die, and don't wait for your dad to die and finally go, oh, life's short.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have pushed myself into doing it faster, not waiting.
What about you, Zoe? How did you know you wanted to be a writer?
Since I was young, just having bedtime stories read to me. My mom would start reading me, graduated up to full chapter books where she'd read me a chapter a night. So before I could even fully write, I just gravitated toward that storytelling, and that was kind of a lifeline for me that just woke something up, and I connected with that in a way that has persisted throughout my entire life, which is rare for me because I'm a very transitory person. I move between things a lot. So writing has been an anchor that has kept me tethered to myself in a lot of ways that nothing else has. So I've just stuck fast to that.
Yeah.
Forever, essentially.
What would you tell yourself now and back then? What would you say to yourself?
Buckle up, kids. Shit's gonna get weird.
That is hilarious.
Be gayer faster.
Yeah.
Don't doubt yourself.
Do you mind me asking, how did you know you were gay? And you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I just did.
Yeah.
I had crushes on Princess Leia and Lizzie McGuire, and just growing up in the Bible Belt, stuff around me taught me to push that down for a little while. And, you know, it was always just kind of flirting there. But they don't tell you, you kind of have to come out of the closet over and over again. We do get queer. It's not just one big moment and then the whole world knows. You kind of have to do it over and over again. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
I'm talking about being queer a lot today, but I feel like it's important.
It is important. Yeah, no, it absolutely is important because of where we are right now. Yeah. And I think being able to have the conversations that you and I have had, and then Loyd being a straight white man, being able to be...
I know.
Well, I say, but being able to be part of the conversation in a way that you understand it's not about you, but you're here to be an ally, I think is such an important...
That's what a lot of people are lacking, is the willingness to listen.
Yeah.
That's what, a great example of white people not listening was when the All Lives Matter movement spun out of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh,
that's just a direct willingness that, no, shut up, I'm talking now. I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear what the underlying problems are. I don't want to hear what you're actually saying. I'm going to get on my high horse and tell you what I think. And that's just of a certain subset of people. That is just what they live in, where everything they hear, they say, no, shut up, I'm talking now. They'll never hear even a grain of information coming down the pipeline in the other direction, and that is a huge problem.
Yep. I also, so I joke, but I mean what I say when I say this, but it is kind of a joking thing, that I'm of the Keanu Reeves school of thought, because he did a quote one time where at a certain point you just have to go, yes, you're absolutely right. The sky is purple. Have a great day. And so my shortened version of that is, okay. And usually if I'm at the, okay, part of the conversation, the people that know me just know she's done. There's at this point we are done having a conversation because you are so cemented that you are right. You're not even willing to consider the fact that you might be wrong. I'm wrong all of the time. You know, but when I'm right, and I know I'm right, I'm not going to... Okay. You know.
That's something, too. You're willing to admit when you're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, it makes you a good, well-rounded person to say, oh, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind. I've come around on
I
that.
frequently call a couple of my friends every once in a while. I'm like, okay, I need to tell you, I think I was an asshole in this situation, and I'll explain the situation, and sometimes they'll go, yeah, you might have been out of cheek on that one. I'm like, okay, I'll apologize. That was bad. Or, and I think I've gotten better going, okay, I don't really know about that. Let me get back to you on that, you know. Because sometimes I'll get all impassioned, like, hold the fuck up. First of all, and I have to have my husband or somebody go, stop talking. Just, please stop talking.
Yeah.
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 I understand you're mad, but stop talking.
Yeah. I have to deal with a certain group of people where I have to overhear, like, stuff that I just want to yell and scream at them and argue with, and you just gotta, they're not going to change their mind.
No.
And I couldn't do it in this moment anyway. So.
Well, and I think, too, that it's also now with the election and where we are and the type of people that we are, there's a certain fear of there are certain people I can't talk in front of anymore. Like, I read a quote the day on that Wednesday after the election that's like, I now know people that I would not turn Anne Frank over to. And that is a horrible realization. And I think being able to discuss stuff and go, we can't talk about that. We'll talk about it later. Because there are people around you that you now know you can't trust them. Yeah. And it's awful.
Yeah.
It is really heartbreaking when you think that you know someone and you realize you really don't.
Yeah. This year has really shown that, you know.
A lot.
Yeah. Before it didn't seem so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's always been crazy. But
sure.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I had a very similar feeling when I came out of the closet for the first time, because I'm no longer on speaking terms with my aunt and uncle, who decided that, like, they didn't want me around to be a bad influence on their daughters. So I think now I haven't experienced that as much post-election, but, like, for certain people, our whole existence is like, oh, this is who I am. And then you see that on the people around you as they back away and flee and don't want anything to do with you.
Well, okay, I want to talk about that you brought up. So you came out to me, and I made sure that my reaction was just like, okay, which, because that was just, to me, it's not a big deal. You could say I'm Oscar the Grouch and be like, all right, cool. You know, how did you know I was a safe person to come out to?
It was pretty obvious, pretty fast. Not like the first time we met. But,
yeah.
I mean, there's literally a pride flag hanging over your head right now.
Yeah.
You make it known with just your words and actions. So. Yeah.
I try really hard not to be performative, which is a word I've heard a lot since the election, especially with, like, the African American community. And, like, I'm wearing a blue bracelet, and I know that a lot of African American women find that very offensive. Loyd made it for me, and they feel it's performative. And so I have gone around and asked several women that I'm friends with that are LGBTQ, because I also have LGBTQ beads in this, thanks to Loyd. And
I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, are you going to back it up?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to post a black square on Instagram, but what else you got?
Yeah.
What is it? I read an article one time where someone said, we don't really need allies, we need accomplices.
Sure.
We need people who will get arrested with us, essentially. So, you know, it's just that there is meaning in saying, I stand with you.
Yeah.
But you have to back it up more than just the post or the bracelet. And I think there are a lot of people who would make that post or wear that bracelet and mean it, but you never know with people if it is just performative.
Sure. And I grew up in a very small town, and there was a lot of racism, and I got to college and got my ass handed to me several times about my reaction to people, and it's taken 20 plus years for me to re-educate myself and understand that as a white female, you know, in society, to be an ally, you have to take it upon yourself to educate yourself. And
it's not anyone else's job to educate you. Like, you need to be willing to go the extra mile.
Right. And I think, too, that, like, I've read books and I've talked to a friend of mine who is African American, and I always started off with, I have a question, which she knows that I generally am asking for understanding. Explain this to me so that I can understand it better. I've read this. I need clarification. And I think I've done the same thing with you and Krista and a couple other people that are, explain what that means to me so that I can understand. Like when Rutherford County, and I use this as an example all the time, when Rutherford County decided they wanted to ban, let's talk about it, this book is gay, gender queer, and flamer. Our LGBTQ book club immediately was like, okay, so that's what we're reading for the next 4 months. And so I made sure that I got the books. And so I've always understood non-binary. Okay, I know what that means. But I don't think I understood it.
Sure.
I accepted it. It's what it is. That's great. Fine. But I don't think I fully grasped what it meant until I read Genderqueer, which is a graphic novel about a woman who doesn't feel like a woman, but doesn't feel like a man. And she talks about things about being a woman that are agonizing for her, like going to the female doctor and having a pap smear or binding her chest, but she doesn't really feel like a guy either because, you know, and I remember reading that comic book going, oh, that makes so much more sense. That's what that means. Yeah. That cleared that up in a way I'd never got before.
The queer community, we're all still people too. We're problematic in our own ways. I talked with someone else in the community recently about how kind of obsessed with labels we are within our community, like femme, masc, non-binary, gender fluid, and it's like everything needs to be labeled, which in part is so that people can gravitate to one of those labels and be like, oh, finally, this is a place where I belong. But we do label things down in such a concrete way that it feels stifling sometimes for you to find where you exist on that spectrum, when really it's okay to just be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something we're figuring out as a community is we don't need to boil it down to all these minuscule little details. It's okay for people to just be people in whatever way they need to be.
Yeah.
Outside of gender and sexuality, to just live.
Wouldn't you like to get to the point to where there's no labels? Where you're just accepted for who you are, right?
Yeah, like you don't really need to
Right
say
now,
anything. You can just be
Right.
like, this is what I'm attracted to. This is how I identify. Like, and it just in almost the vaguest terms, or the very specific terms almost, that just apply to yourself. Because I think people within the queer community do even feel bogged down, like, oh, well, this is who I need to be a lesbian. Or I know some lesbian women are like, oh, I'm bisexual, because they don't feel like they're enough of a lesbian. So there is that internal kind of prejudice within the community of, well, are you being non-binary right? Are you being transgender right? And you doing okay?
I think that's interesting that you bring that up, because I think that goes along with race as well. There is racism among African American people about being too light-skinned or being too dark-skinned.
Expectations.
Right, and as you
And it
said,
affects everyone
yeah,
in all communities.
I think people who think that way don't understand anything about science.
yeah,
Because nature is not just this or that. I mean, it can't be. There's somebody on this side. There's somebody on this side, too. And then all the different clicks along the way.
yeah,
And I've always been a science head
sure.
and thought that way.
Well, that's what leads into some of your writing too, is some of the science that's in your writing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't try to overwhelm
No,
it
but-
with that. But I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah. But is it though? Because I don't think it is common
It
sense
is common
anymore.
sense.
I think
It's just people don't want. There are certain people who don't want to accept it.
Yeah, I think the opposite is taught. Like, I saw something the other day that you're not born with racism, it's taught.
Oh, I absolutely believe that.
100%.
I absolutely. So, like, that's so funny you say that, because I have a kid, and she got in trouble in elementary school. Yeah, elementary school, where she had to draw a picture of her family. So she drew a picture of one of my best friends who was African American. So she drew her mom and her dad and her stepmom and her stepdad and her stepsister and then she drew my friend's family, which is the mom and the dad and their son, and they're black. And so she had some little kid who was also black tell her, that's not your family. We're a brownie and you're a peach. You're not related. That's not your family. And Corinne got upset, and they got into it, as much as little kids can get into it. So, of course, I get a call from the principal, and I was like, wait, what now? And he's telling me what happened. And I said, so what happened to the other kid? Because he's the one who started it by telling her, because, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's racist. It is, telling somebody that they're not family because they look different. I call my friend's son, that's my nephew. And I have some biracial nieces and nephews. That's my kids. That's, that's my best friend, and her kids are my kids. And so I remember sitting in the car coming home, talking to Corinne, my daughter, about it. And she was like, well, why does Aunt so-and-so, why is she darker than me? And I was like, well, that's just how God made her. But then I thought that's such a toss-away answer for a parent.
Sure.
But at the time, you're not sure how to answer it in the best.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
It's a hard question. So I remember calling my friend and explaining what happened and said, how should I answer this question in the best way as a parent who doesn't know how to answer the question? And she said, well, I mean, you saying that that's how God made you, I mean, that's true. But also you could just say it's because I have more melanin in my skin.
Melatonin?
Is it melanin or melatonin?
Oh, no, it is. I think
it's melanin, yeah, in my skin than she does. So we're the exact same. It's just a different level. Back to what you said with science. It's literally a level of melanin in my skin that makes my skin darker than her skin.
Yeah.
It's a biological DNA thing.
Yeah, it's chemistry.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. And I really love that you brought that up, because that's exactly what it is it comes down to, but when we don't believe scientists anymore, the collective we, we don't believe in environment,
global warming.
Thank you. That's the phrase I'm looking for. And we don't believe, and then I hear some people say, well, being gay is a choice. Is it though sometimes? No, I don't think it is.
That's also another spectrum.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting that we're in a time where we don't believe scientists and we don't believe doctors and we don't believe things that the proof is sitting right in front of us, and yet we still have people going, no. Like the flat earthers? What? That is a whole thing. What is that?
Flat earthers make me want to sail over the edge of the earth.
I thought it was a joke until I realized that it's a real group of people.
And that Australia isn't real.
Like, and the moon landing thing, the conspiracy theorists that the moon landing isn't real, and Nazi Germany with the Holocaust, it didn't happen, and the earth is not round, it's flat. Like, I hear that stuff, and my initial reaction is
Your
to go,
brain is not round, it's flat.
What?
Yeah.
And the fact that people really believe that, wait, what? Wait, what?
If as long as they're not affecting my life, I'm going to let them believe whatever they want to, because it doesn't change any facts.
But do you ever just sit there and kind of have this?
Oh God, yes.
What the heck?
Do you enjoy the well-funded experiments to prove the Earth is flat, or it all goes wrong?
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, where they were proving
what now?
that there was no curve, and they shot it. Was it a light or a laser?
Yeah, they were doing a laser, and they're like, if the Earth was curved, we wouldn't be able to see the laser past a certain point, because the curve would interfere with our vision in a certain way. And it's like, and watch. Yeah. And then they couldn't, and they were like, well, we need to redo it real quick.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
They did an experiment to prove the Earth was flat, and proved the Earth was round.
Didn't they get like a mile away from each other?
I think so.
Target, and they shot a laser, and if it was flat, of course, it would land on this target exactly where it's supposed to be. But they couldn't get it. And it was like...
Because of the curvature.
Yeah. And they're trying to... they were confused.
I don't...
And never once said...
I wish that y'all could see the expression on my face of just... What the fuck?
Yeah, that's a video. It's probably on YouTube. You could watch it, and you just
Serious? I mean, all you have to do is go up to like the Sears Tower in Chicago, and if you get up high enough, you can physically see the curvature.
I mean, look at a moon. I mean, that shows like...
why would the moon be round and the Earth be flat?
Yeah, and then...
And all the other celestial bodies in the sky. Yeah, Earth's the only one?
The shadow on the moon is curved. That's why we get a waning moon and a waxing moon.
Oh, but that's science, remember?
Oh, that's right. Fuck.
Yeah, we don't believe in science.
Damn science. Always right. I'm not going to allow it anymore.
Man. So... Loyd, you are the sci-fi guy. Are you going to put all this dystopian bullshit in a book somewhere? I'm really curious.
Yes.
Yeah, you are?
Yeah, it's on the list.
Is it? Okay, yeah, because I would really love to see your take on the shit show that is happening right now.
I can actually tell you what it's called.
Okay.
It's called Autosave, but it's O-T-T-O.
Why auto?
Because it's the name of something.
Okay.
And, it's going to be... dystopian future where we fuck shit up.
Has there ever been a book that you guys have read that you've read and sat down and went, Jesus Christ, that's what we're doing right now?
Off the top of my head.
Not off the top of my head. Like stories like what is it? Of course that's vampires, but
if you say Legend, Twilight, I'm going to slap you.
No, I Am Legend. What's the last? Oh, no, it's I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking of the movie with Charlton Heston, and then it was called Last Man on Earth or something.
Yeah.
He hated it so much he didn't want his name in the title or something. Yeah. I see something like that.
Have you guys
The
ever...
Handmaid's Tale would be one.
Oh, Jesus, right? Like, I tried to watch that show. I got through the first season and was so pissed off after every episode that I could literally feel my blood pressure.
You thought you were watching the news.
Oh my
important.
God.
It's hard to read or watch.
I literally can't. I could not watch it anymore because I would feel so pissed by the end of each episode that I would have to go sit outside and breathe.
I have stuff like that where I want to read it for the importance of it.
Yeah.
But what it elicits in me affects just my day-to-day life on such a core level that I really need something more along the lines of escapism a lot of times.
Right.
Have you guys ever read the book Feed by M.T. Anderson?
No, I have not.
Okay. So, it is a dystopian YA fiction about a society where people get a chip in the back of their neck, okay? And it's like instead of a laptop, all of the things that you do on a laptop, it's in this little chip. So you can shop, you can chat, you can watch movies, like everything that you do online is all in this chip, right? And so it's like really cool and all the cool kids do it, right? So the main character meets a girl who doesn't have a chip, okay, in the back of her neck, because there is a small group of people that don't get a chip, because what you find out is that some people get this chip and immediately corrodes their entire system, and their brain gets like rust and they corrode and die a horrible fucking death, right?
This sounds so familiar.
I know I've talked to you about it before.
But how else are you going to get prime shipping?
Well, I read the book in college, and I remember having the willies because we were right on that Amazon, Netflix, internet, Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And I remember going,
You reminded me of another book that does make me think, like, oh, we're going down this trajectory. The Circle by Dave Eggers.
You and I talked about that. That's the movie with Emma Watson and Tom Hanks. But the movie yeah.
The book is
well,
fantastic.
that usually does when that happens.
The book is basically a new employee it's a different name, but it's Google or Facebook HQ essentially, and she gets swept up in the technological revolution, which is really restraining all our other rights, and it's haunting. It is
that's how I felt about Feed. It is, and when I read it, I was like, same thing with what was the movie that I talked about with Star Wars girl, Natalie Portman, and the guy from The Matrix, not Keanu Reeves, but the bad guy, V for Vendetta.
Right.
It will get there. I was like, I will get it out of my brain eventually.
God,
when I watched V for Vendetta, that movie gave me the creeps so bad and just unnerved the shit out of me.
I watched that one in high school. That was a good one.
Oh my God. I have not been able to go back and rewatch it because it disturbed me so bad that I couldn't, I have not been able to go back and rewatch it.
There's a level of, as dark as it is, there's a level of hope in that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
I do appreciate.
Yeah.
Because it's hard when you read something like that and the end is like, and we're doomed, so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's nice to feel hope, even if, I don't know, I get pessimistic sometimes in that we've gone through so many phases of society. Like, there was a famous Greek poet, Sappho of Lesbos, who is really where we get the words sapphic and lesbian from. And the indigenous people of America had people they revered as two spirits, which are now what we call transgender, non-binary people. So we've had so many segments of society come along and figure out how to be progressive and better, and then it just all slides back. So I do have that intense pessimism sometimes of, even if we fight now, in 500 years, is there going to be another group of 3 people sitting here having the exact same conversation as they go down the exact same road. And that's disheartening sometimes, but at least we'll be dead by then.
Do you think that mankind can learn and change, or do you think that we're going to repeat this same cycle of bullshit?
I'm usually pessimistic, and I don't want to use the word optimistic because of what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think we've gotten better in some ways. I'm trying to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems like there's always a horrible step back along the way. I mean, I try to think of, like, my parents, they were born in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
When my dad was 39 and 3 months is when I was born. So it took them a long time to have me. They were already they were middle-aged when they had me.
Mm-hmm.
So they grew up in a time where, if you were white, you were king of everything.
Sure.
And white man up here.
Yeah.
Above all.
Yep.
And, I think we've gotten a little better since then, and this older generation is having a hard time opening themselves up to new things because of the way they were raised.
Mm-hmm. I'm so tired of that argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so tired of that argument because I was raised to love everybody, but there was also very much racism. And over the years, I was raised that way, but I've also opened myself up to being different and learning and going, what the hell was wrong with me?
That comes with intelligence.
Life only has purpose if you grow and change.
Right.
If you're stagnant, the person you were when you were, if you're the person you were when you were born, you'd be babbling. But
I'm I'm just sick of that argument. This is just how I was raised. Mm-hmm. God, I'm so sick of that freaking argument.
It's people who get comfortable in
it's
what
so
they
lazy.
Believe, and
what's interesting too, like as writers, living life, there's always that next story to strive for, and what you're going to tell next, and how you're going to grow and change as a writer, and tell new stories. And it is, it's baffling to me how other people just live their lives on a day-to-day basis with nothing in place of that. Like, I'm just living to work and die, essentially.
I think that comes from fear and of being uncomfortable.
You need something to strive for, and I don't think enough people have that. And I think society is engineered to not give people that.
Well,
something to
if you had told me when I was in my 30s that I'd be running a bookstore, I would have laughed, even though I wanted to run a bookstore since I was 15 years old. I wanted to be an actress, and I wanted to run a bookstore. Those are the two things that I in my life plan, that's I was going to be an actress so I could be rich and famous, and I would eventually open up a bookstore, and that was how I was going. That was what I was going to do. And it wasn't until I was 45, and Tammy, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, gave me a very swift kick in the ass and said, are you going to start your bookstore, or are you just going to keep talking about it? You've been talking about it since I've known you. And I mean, literally kicked me in the ass to do it. And she helped me sign up for my first farmer's market, and I can't imagine, like what you said earlier, why the hell did I wait so long?
Right.
What the heck? I could have been running my own bookstore for 20 years by now,
Lindsay's across America.
Oh, no, I don't want to do all that. No. I don't want to be, I want to be rich, but I don't want to go to the moon. I don't want to have a conglomerate. I want to just...
Fine, we won't invite you to our moon party.
Man,
right?
I would get so... I want to go to Saturn and slide on the rings if we're talking about space travel. Just like... Whee!
Good luck with that.
Yeah, right?
She understands science either.
No. There are several times that I'm like, okay, explain that to me like I'm 5. Because, mentally I am a 12-year-old going, so's your mom! Every time someone pisses me off. So, I feel like I'm one of those kids from Sandlot. Like, my inner child is one of the kids from Sandlot,
Just a very sassy baseball player.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So,
You
yes.
wouldn't go to the moon?
I don't know. I get motion sick on a boat. And flying makes me a little nauseous, you know? So they would have to have it set up so that you don't feel any of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That flip in the stomach, like when the plane takes off and lands, it makes me want to vomit.
It's like, I love that.
See, me, oh my God, it makes me so anxious. I like, talking about it stresses me out. You know what I mean? And I think it would be a really cool experience, and I would really love to do it. But I wouldn't let Elon Musk do it. Not in a fucking second. Hell no. I would trust, what's
Blue Origin and NASA. There's NASA
Yeah.
Blue Origin.
It's Blue Origin, the white-haired guy from England that did the record company, and it's like, oh God, what is that guy's name?
Branson.
Yeah, Branson.
Richard Branson. I don't know. I don't actually.
Because I think he's doing one too.
Well, isn't that Virgin?
Yeah. So not Virgin, okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, this is Blue Origin, and they really deal with NASA a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would want to at least have some
going
part.
to space, I'd want it to be in a method that I wasn't coming back.
So
Like,
would you
by
be one of the
people.
people that would go to Mars and never come back? Of course, I don't think they're doing that now. I think they've learned a way to. I haven't heard anything, but
Well, I mean, we have aliens now
Probably
too.
not. I'm not disenchanted enough yet.
so
You know-
And the thing is, too, if I was going to Mars with the people, it'd still be the same people from Earth, just on Mars. So what's the point?
Yeah.
Less of them.
Well, I don't know, because
But-
the people
and
that they're gonna put
And then
on
if you have any
Mars.
that are unbearable, it's like, oh great, now I've only got 12 people to choose from.
Yeah, like, I don't know, though. I think the people going to Mars are going to be the scientists and the doctors and the architects and the smart people that believe in flipping science.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
But then one guy whose daddy bought his ticket to Mars.
Oh,
And
God,
everybody
you
hates
know that
I
would
can't comb my
happen.
hair through this helmet.
Oh, my God.
Okay, well, now that you've done that impression, I kind of like this guy.
Y'all are so ridiculous. I love it. Well, guys.
Dummy's kicking in,
I mean, right?
right? Not
Well-
those guys.
I just got what you just said. Oh, God, that's great. Well, you guys, thank you so much.
We're done?
Yeah, we've been talking for about an hour and a half. Yeah. It's a great season finale.
Thanks for having us on for the finale.
Dude, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do every season is have like two authors that I like the most to finish out the season.
Oh,
Well, then I guess we're going to be here
right?
forever.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Y'all are my two favorite
That's
people.
recorded.
Yes, it is.
See you next season, punk.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in for 30 episodes of season 1.
Woo.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't realize there was that many episodes, so I started writing it down. So we're going to be out of pocket for the month of December. Lindsay needs a break, and we're going to start back up in January with season 2. We already have 3 episodes lined up for season 2. Yay, say hi. We're going to take a picture. Yay. So, thank you, Zoe and Loyd, for coming on and joining the shenanigans show of the Spine Bookcast. We've been taking pictures for promotional purposes. You are not a creepy old man. Oh my God.
Sorry, we're taking promotional photos to promote this podcast. later.
Yes.
I realized how insane that sounded and that you were still recording.
No, it's totally fine. That's what the show's about, is how ridiculous we are.
It's loosey-goosey.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next season. Happy holidays and happy reading, and if you're with us, keep fighting censorship and for the rights of everyone. Love you guys, and happy reading.